All right. Hey everyone, it's Xant. Oh, my microphone is now super sensitive. Unbelievable. Give me a second here. Filters. Nuke the shit out of that gain. All right. This should be better. Maybe a little louder? Okay. Let me know if that's too loud, too quiet, whatever. Every time. I swear, I look away from this thing for like a day and it just breaks itself. Let's put it right there. Leave it there. Okay. I know, Victor. I have no idea why, but no matter how much time I spend configuring stuff with this setup, something will inevitably break. And that looks like it's still too loud based on what I'm seeing my mic peaking. Unbelievable. Anyway, new content dropped in GBM. We're going to be doing our little talk about it, go over all the stuff like we normally do. It's been a couple of weeks. I'm somehow not dead. Life is great. All right. The last couple of weeks have been pretty busy, outside of regularly scheduled stuff that I do. I've been way busier than I expected I would be with my free company in Final Fantasy XIV. We've been doing a lot of the new content that dropped. Deep dungeon and everything. I'm 2 clears down, which I'm really happy about because I'm only in there for the mount at this point. That's 4 clears, so halfway there. Grand Blue Fantasy, I finally got my blue skin, which I'm super happy about. And I'm on the last couple of steps of what I need to do for the Evoker uncaps that are coming up soon. And I think really beyond that, I don't know if you guys know, but Wuthering Waves is getting its closed beta test. You can sign up for it now on their website. That has me extremely excited. I have been looking forward to this game since I saw it announced. It's made by the same guys that did Punishing Gray Raven, which I have talked about here before. I've done videos for it. That game is just amazing. So I'm really excited to see where they take their, not so much sequel, but because they're still doing PGR while they're making this game, but they're incorporating a lot of aspects from Punishing Gray Raven and putting it in there. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that all pans out. Anyways, you guys are here for the Gundam stuff. Let's get cracking into the Gundam stuff, shall we? So our event suit this time is the Crossbone Gundam X3. I never actually watched Crossbone, so none of the stuff is extremely familiar to me. I believe I mentioned that the first time a Crossbone Gundam was added to the game. Yeah, like I very vaguely know about it pretty much. So anyways, let's take a look at what it's offering. Now, it's a welfare post-power creep. I'm expecting something interesting. Shot damage raised 10% and EX skill power boosted by 35%. We are just rip-roaring off to the races here. So to effectively summarize this, you're taking 10% more shot damage coming in. Trade-off, you're doing 35% more EX skill power boost. That is the highest modifier we've ever seen on a welfare. Is that a bad joke about Crossbone? You know how little I know about Crossbone? I can't even make jokes about it. If I accidentally made a joke about it, it was completely intentional, I swear. Anyhow, the 35% EX skill power boost is actually the highest multiplier that we have available for welfare machines. So this is really cool. The trade-off is honestly negligible. Just, don't get hit. My favorite line to say when it comes to these games. That's amazing. That part trait's effectively 10 out of 10. That's all I have to say about it. It's a general EX skill power boost, doesn't have any prerequisites. You don't have to be strength. You don't have to have a certain word tag. I love it. This is a must-get part. Very good. That trait alone. It's only animated appearance being in build fighters, so you remind how much they perform. Hey, you know what, Mana? I'll go through this nice and slow as I always do, and then 3 hours from now we'll get to the alterations, and I'll just cry into a pillow that I don't have on hand. Well, not true. On the couch, but I'm not gonna go get that. I can't even drown my sorrows. I'm all out of alcohol. It's gonna be a long day, night. Anyhow, looking at the stats for this suit, Okay. Wow, that's a lot of melee attack. So we're looking at about 1800, 1850 after carryover for a melee attack. As far as welfare heads go, that's really, really good. That's man, that's gonna be what, like top 1%, I would reckon, for welfare heads. I have nothing to complain about. Shot attack, obviously not as good. It's more melee focused, at least the head part is. Looking at like 2200, 22 change. Typically when you have a head focused on shot, you're looking at like 3800 on the higher end. You're looking at probably 32 on the lower end. This nowhere near that, obviously. It's, again, melee head. But it does have kind of like token amounts of shot in there just in case, but good melee. Gundam type, high firepower, very powerful word tag selection as well. Gundam type is used to activate a ton of very powerful traits throughout the game. Unfortunately, it won't benefit a melee suit as much. You know, if you look at the bonuses, armor, shot attack, and physical resist get boosted while active. But the trade-off of the 5%, you know, instead of it being, you know, melee attack 5% or something, if you run this on a melee suit, could easily be traded off with the different traits that Gundam type can activate. So, pros and cons, you gotta weigh them, but easily accessible tag, activates a ton of cool stuff. High firepower, it's just one of those tags. It can be used on shot, can be used on melee. It's available on thousands of parts at this point. Actually, how many parts do we have in this game? Look, it's going to be high hundreds. Honestly, like, anyways, high firepower, accessible, activates a ton of traits, good on any build. Same with the trait, good on any build. Overall, amazing part. Lots of melee attack, very flexible, powerful, awesome. Okay, torso. 2 + 5 alters because one of the standards first 100 suits already has its alter. Oh, lovely. Lovely. Alright, torso for the X3. Chest Gatling Cannon, B+ Pierce, B- Power. And you just fire your Gatling gun. Now, low cooldown, nice to see. Just a couple of little question marks on this one. What's the spread of the Gatling gun? What's the distance of the bullets? You know, things like that. Unfortunately, because this is a welfare suit and not a gacha suit, we don't have any like preview videos for it. They still haven't given us the in-game viewer for this stuff yet. Long and short, if the bullets are able to travel, you know, across the map, kind of keep a tight spread, awesome stuff. If they don't travel very far, they spread out, you're prone to miss some of your shots, obviously not as good. It really depends on how it actually functions, which I can't tell from here, but on paper, it looks fine. The B- power is a little you'd probably want like maybe B or B+ on an EX skill like this, but okay. Statistically, okay, definitely a melee suit, hands down. So we're looking at about 2,000 change, 2050 melee attack, kind of around there, and then for shot attack, like 1,000 or so. As far as torsos go, post power creep, about 1,000 is kind of the minimum we expect to see, so this does well on that field. But the melee attack going over 2,000 is very rare on a torso, welfare torso. So obviously, much like the head, I have no real complaints about this. That's a very, very nice stat spread for melee. For welfare. Gundam type, high firepower, word tag combination again. I've already talked about that, so I'll just move on. EX skill, looks good on paper. Stats, nice, for sure. And tags are definitely powerful. Good combo. Arms. The Eye Field Generator Awakening. Raise your melee and shot defense by 29%. Okay. Okay. Cooldown's kind of what to expect. The melee and shot cooldown, or the shot defense, it's like, it's not inherently bad because, you know, defense can be good in some situations, but I don't know. It's This might be something useful on like a support suit that you don't want to die, because it has some really useful auras on it. You know, like it has the boost squad shot attack by whatever percent, or boost squad's melee attacks. You're like, this gotta stay alive, so you give it this awakening so that it has all that extra defense. As it does boost melee and shot defense, that is, you know, kind of very useful, especially if you get a trait that's, you know, increase, you know, buff EX skills by, or, you know, buffs by whatever percent, right? But I don't know, I've always just found it weird, which is like straight defensive boost, because like, just don't get hit, you know? I guess sometimes you can't really do much to avoid it, but overall, it's a powerful multiplier for a welfare suit. I'm just not personally into defensive EX skills, awakenings, and stuff. But if you are, it's a good modifier for sure. Statistically, 3,500 or so, yeah, kind of around there. Melee attack, shot wise, like 600, so very, very underperforming for the shot, obviously. Melee attack though, pretty good. We have seen welfares go higher than this. We've seen them go up into 4K. Which just definitely sits on the higher end, but not like really up high there. No real complaints though. Again, for a welfare, it packs a healthy punch for stats. The tag combo is still the same. I'm actually surprised it hasn't been switched out at all. Yeah, I don't really have anything negative to say other than that EX skill, which is more of a personal thing than like, it's, you know, it's not bad. It's just not something I would field personally, because I stack attack steroids and go to town, right? So a mileage may vary thing, right? Legs. When attacking with beam, all enemies EX skill damage plus 25%. So even though the text is a little wonky here, long and short, whenever you're ever using beam, so whether it's a beam melee or a beam shot, and that can be for, well, just specifically, right, it boosts EX skill damage. So you're going to want to use beam EX, so beam melee EX, beam shot EX. They 25% extra skill damage, EX skill damage is what they're going to be taking. I don't know why they haven't fixed the translations on this stuff yet, because it's clearly just the same string, you know, just a modifier at the end for whatever the variable is. Frankly, they really should go and address some of this stuff, because they have all this text box space to use, and they just refuse to use it appropriately to make the translation work properly, you know? It's just such a weird decision personally to me. Anyways, use beam, get 25% EX skill damage boost. Very good. Again, this is definitely on the higher end of the modifiers for welfares. The 35% is like the highest we've ever seen. 30% is typically like the upper end that we normally would see on a welfare. 25% is more of the above average, right? 20% is kind of the common that you would see on most welfares for an EX skill boost. So 25% is really good. 35%, which was on the head, absolutely amazing. Beam, tons of options in the game, so you won't have any problem leveraging this either. All enemies equals squad boost. Yeah, so it's just such a weird translation, honestly. Like, they really do need to address it, because there's so much, a lot of the like nuance of what the skill does is lost because the translation just doesn't cover it all. So the EX skill damage, as Mana pointed out, does apply to the entire squad, not just to you that's using something. So you can slap this on, you know, a support suit. They can, you can use an EX skill and get the bonus from it if it's beam. Yeah, they really need to fix these translations. They've had them for years now, but it's not really an excuse. You know, squad, or when a squad member uses beam EX, 25% damage or 25% EX skill damage boost or something, you know, just make it to the point. It may not be as summarized and short, but like, it doesn't make any sense as it is now, because it sounds like the enemies, all your enemies, are getting a bonus when you do something, which isn't the case. Anyhow, statistically, what is a ton of melee defense? Holy crap. What? Okay. So we're looking at like Oh, right. This is with the badges on. I was like, there's no way. All right, so 2200. That's still a ton. What the heck? Okay. So 2200 melee defense on legs is stupid high. With carryover, that's like what, 2000 melee attack? Like, what? More, it's like what, 2080, 2100 ish, kind of in that like bracket area. So typically legs and backpack on the frame are the lowest defensively statted of all of the suit parts. That includes after carryover. You typically see them just above 1,000, sometimes they go up to like 1,200, and that's considered kind of average post power creep. Once you start going past that, the numbers get a little weird, because then you kind of have up to 1,500, which is good. You have up to 1,800, which is absolutely amazing. Once you go past that and into like the 2,000 range, that's like absolute top tier 1% statistically for welfare parts. This just keeps going. 2100 is crazy. I think there's might be 3 to 4 other welfare legs in the game that do this. Not for melee, mind you, just in general for an offensive stat after carryover before marks. So this is some crazy statage. Absolutely mint. So the trait, extremely powerful. Your squad gets an EX skill boost to 25% when anyone uses a beam EX skill. Statistically, absolutely stunning for melee. Tags, Gundam type and pro tag. So we've exchanged our high firepower for one of the core melee tags. There's literally no good reason to not get this. The head, absolutely amazing. The legs, absolutely amazing. I'm really worried about the backpack now, though. With power attribute, EX skill cooldown reduced by 15%. Now see, this is kind of what I expect from a welfare. You have the EX skill cooldown reduced by 15%, with the highest modifier we typically see is 20%, and then I believe like 21%, and then 23%. That's kind of what we normally see, and then there's some crazy outliers where EX skill cooldowns, 30% reduction. 15% is on the higher end for welfares. It's more what we would expect to see from like 4-star gacha suits, post power creep. The power attribute requirements a little funky. So it's relatively restrictive because you're forced to use a specific attributed suit for this to actually activate power. When you have a restriction like that, typically you'd see whatever is being buffed get a little bit of a bonus as kind of a trade-off. It's, hey, yeah, we're being a little restrictive, so here's kind of a little bit of extra gimme for it, This is, here's a not terribly restrictive activation requirement, but potentially kind of annoying because it's not a word tag, it's not a general you take more damage or whatever. It's straight up like you have to be power attribute, which throws you into that attribute loop and forces you to put this on a specific type of suit. You don't really get much of a trade-off back for it, and that's what you expect to see from welfares. This is a very average trait compared to the rest of the suit. It's like they made this part like 1.5 years ago. Anyways, Gundam type pro tag word tags. All right, cool beans. And statistically, pretty much the same as the legs. We're pushing 2,000. So statistically, no issues whatsoever. Part traits, again, it's just such a average. It's not bad, don't get me wrong. EX skill cooldown is very, very good. However, the power attribute requirement does add a little bit of restriction spice in there for you. If you're already running a power suit, this won't matter at all. If this is going to be your first main suit because you're a new player to the game, first of all, congrats. This is a really powerful suit to start with, but also, it doesn't really matter to you. You're kind of starting off the game. I just find, personally, I like finding parts that are more neutral, so that if I do need to change up other stuff to be speed, technique, whatever, I don't suddenly have traits that are completely worthless that I also have to swap out for, right? I try keeping it neutral so that I can, if my suit needs to be neutral, it can be neutral. If it needs to be speed, technique, or power because of what I'm fighting, I can easily swap it out without needing to do a complete breakdown and rebuild of it, you know? Anyways, trait average, good for welfare, but average. It's just an interesting thing. And the word tags, yeah, nice. Honestly, the frame of the Crossbone Gundam is kind of nutty. Ignoring the EX skill in the Awakening, because personally, I'm not a big fan of the Awakening. Like I said, it's good, just not my flavor. And I'm not sure about the torso. I'd have to see the animation for that. But the head, the legs, like really, really good. The torso and the arms. The arms are a little lackluster statistically, but considering the rest of the frame's numbers, it makes up for it and some on top of that. So statistically, absolutely amazing. The head and the legs really carry it in terms of like just trait buffs. Yeah, that's dope. If you try to filter perm alter for back CD, you'd hardly find options to get most notable standard X1 Kai 20% CDR. Sure, but again, you're diving into, you know, every single part, and you're looking at very like individual stuff. You got to look at it more as a whole. I get what you mean though, man. Absolutely. Finding a backpack with a cooldown reduction that's tribute, very, very rare. But that's kind of like you're missing the forest for the trees kind of thing, you know? Your suit is made up of 8 parts, not just backpacks. It'd be really funny if you made a suit completely out of backpacks, but I hope you get the meaning. Alright, Beam Saber. The Muramasa Blaster Max Output. B+ power, D pierce, low cooldown, 14 beams are emitted from your weapon and you perform a melee attack. I would have to see this animation. Honestly, it sounds like something that's close range, easy to whiff, not extremely like flexible. I may obviously be wrong because again, I'm not really a crossbone kind of guy, but based on just the text, this sounds like whiffable. Paper sounds great. In practice, purely boils down to the animation. Statistically, what are we looking at? Okay, so to start with, melee welfare weapons typically are under 4,000. Post power creep as well. We've had, I think, less than 10 examples so far of welfare weapons that have gone past 4,000, and that's natively. Like, they'll be at actual, like, melee attack 4,098 or 4,120, whatever, right? Just the raw number. But they won't have any kind of other values, really. They'll have a little bit of armor, a little bit of resist, but they won't have melee defense on them to carry over and add way more numbers. After carryover, we're looking at effectively 4,400 melee attack. I believe that is the highest, if not second highest, melee attack from a welfare weapon in the game. Of course, you do have to leverage carryover to get the full value, so a brand new player picking this up, you'll get the majority of the value from it. But once you unlock change gears and you get a little bit of that melee defense buff carryover, you're going to notice the sword obviously pumping out more numbers. That's really cool. Alright, Gundam type pro tag word tags, no complaints there. Honestly, my only real hang up with this part is the EX skill. That's only because I don't know what the animation is. For all I know, it could be really, really good, but I don't. So that's really my only concern with this. Would you rather have all 9 parts have plenty of CDR options? 5 certain CDR to lock down those parts you want to build CDR. No, man, again, like I said, I agree. It's nice to have, you know, the extra part with it, but it also, it's like, it's not that big of a deal. Like, it's nice having the options, but the duration the game has been out for, the options that we have available across the board, it's like, yeah, it's there, it exists, it's a relatively accessible option, but in the grand scheme of things, doesn't really do that much. And that's what it all boils down to. For a brand new player, EX skill cooldown reduction, even just a little bit, is pretty useful. But again, it's just there's better stuff. Oh yeah, no, Alex, it's a very good melee weapon. Like, that melee weapon's really nice. Let's check out the beam rifle. I'm actually curious about that. I see melee defense on this. Okay. So, the trait. While protagonist, buff EX skill time up 15%. Very straightforward. If you have the protagonist word tag active, which you probably should, because I'm assuming you're going to be putting this on a melee suit, considering the trait, and pro tag giving you a 10% melee attack boost, pretty much standard. Yeah. Buff EX skill time up is exactly as printed. The duration of a buff will be 15% longer. Personally, I don't think that's really that amazing. Your fights shouldn't be lasting the entire duration of most buffs in this game. Like, I guess if you're like really, really new or the fight is very, very, very long. But overwhelmingly, your fights won't really be lasting well over a minute. Like, adding more to the 45-second or 60-second duration really won't do that much. It's not inherently terrible, but I just don't see a lot of long-term value out of this. Yeah, you're right, Ray, on that. Typically, when you see it requires a word tag to activate the trait, the part itself will also have the word tag associated with that. It's not the first time we've seen it kind of, skew that, but it's more common to see the word tag required than not. Now, statistically, as it is a ranged weapon, it does have a significant amount of shot attack, 3,300. Post power creep, that puts it pretty average, maybe even a little below average. The interesting thing here is the melee defense, because with carryover, that's a little under 300 or so melee attack. It's a token amount of melee attack at the end of the day to kind of slap onto your suit, but, for a newer player, 300 is 300. That's not a terrible amount, honestly. Yeah, it's kind of interesting how that works with the rest of the suit. And then Gundam type, high firepower word tags. Yeah, I've already talked about that combo. Yeah, no, I agree on that. Instead of increasing the duration of the buff, buffing the actual buff itself with, buff effect up 25%, 30%, even 15% goes a lot further, because instead of you just getting a longer buff, you're doing more with it in a shorter time frame. Okay. Overall, the welfare has crazy high stats, very interesting distribution of traits. The EX skills that it has access to on paper, solid. I would have to see them in action to really, kind of yes or no them. Still not a fan of the Awakening, but that's a personal thing. If you're more into the defensive side of buffs, power to you. That's not bad. 30%, 29%. Both of your defense values is solid, so cool beans. All right, well, let's go check out our gacha. As always, 7-star suits I'm not going to be looking at here. I'm going to be looking at an alteration, granted, if they have an alteration available, which both of these do. So yeah, we're just going to look at our new pilot and then hop on over to alteration, and then you guys get to enjoy 5+2 suits worth of suffering. I can see it's carrying through on my webcam, but you guys can see the dark bags under my eyes. I'm not a fan of staying up this late to do this, but I'll do it anyways. I'm not going to be happy. All right. Alejandro Corner. So we got ourselves a 00 guy. Nice. Defender job license. Okay. Weapon reload speed down 15%, revive with 60% armor one time. Very straightforward. It just means your ranged weapons reload speed, so you fire off all the shots in it, and then you gotta wait for it to reload the ammo. That's increased by 15%. Now, that may sound like a big number, 15%, but if you think about it in reality, it's negligible. So typically a weapon will take anywhere from like low end 2.5, 3 seconds to high end like 5, 6 seconds to fully reload. This 15%, that's what, like 0.9% on the high end, give or take. Or sorry, 0.9 seconds. So like at absolute max, you're adding an extra second to your reload time, and at minimum, it's like half a second maybe. Yeah. 15% sounds like big number. In reality, it's not really that big of a deal. The revive with 60% armor one time, I'm not really sure if that's worth the trade-off though. Personally, I don't like these kind of guts skills. I understand their value. It could be really useful if like the enemy opens up instantly with like an EX skill you can't dodge and it just instantly downs your suit. This gives you a chance to actually fight back. But overwhelmingly in content, you're not really gonna be trying to die. You gotta remember, a lot of the later content does, well, I shouldn't say all of it, but there's a select few game modes later on where you literally just don't want to get hit. You don't want to take damage, get a maximum score, clear it the fastest for farming, whatever. You don't want to be using a revive skill. You just want to not get hit, get the enemy first, whatever. Starting off, not a bad trait, but this will fall off relatively quickly unless you're doing something very specific. I thought you were cosplaying a panda. Nah, man, I've just been... So, like... I don't know. I can't remember if I brought it up. I might have. But we had like a minor squirrel problem. We had some people come in like really quickly to get stuff fixed up, but during that short period of time that we were waiting for the people to come in, I was literally like sleeping on the couch because so the way that our second story works, our roof is kind of merged with the second floor. So in my room, for example, I've lost like half of my ceiling space to a big slant. That's because that's where the roof is. It's a very old home, right? So kind of little things like that. My brother's room, for example, his entire roof is just like slants going all the way down because it's just where the roof is, right? Anyways, the reason that's important is because the squirrels had found an entrance point directly beside my bedroom wall, right? Because that's where the roof was. So I could hear them trying to scratch through the east troughs. I could hear them trying to scratch through, anything they could, the shingles, whatever, to get inside, because that's what they do. It was very difficult to sleep. So I was just sleeping on the couch here because I can't hear them as well here. And I'm still trying to kind of get back my sleep schedule because of that. So I don't know if you've ever dealt with squirrels in your life. If you haven't, all I can say is I'm so happy for you. But they like doing their due anywhere between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m. And then they like doing it again between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. And then they'll do it again in the evening as they're kind of packing up to stop going outside for the day. So during those hours, you really can't sleep very well, if at all, because you'll just hear them. And yeah, it was very difficult getting sleep for a while, and I'm still trying to get my sleep schedule back on track. So literally, I'm finishing this and going to bed and crossing my fingers I can stay asleep long enough without having the PTSD wake up expecting animal noises. Anyways, I've gone off track. Let's get back to looking at our pilot here. So overall, the trait, not really amazing. Again, might be really nice for a brand new player, but once you get to a certain point, you're not going to be playing around with revives unless you have a specific setup. Statistically, he is a defender, so he's not going to get any real bonuses to the offensive values. He'll get armor bonuses and such. So his effective offensive values are final. You're looking at what, 2900 melee attack and pretty much the same for shot attack. A very balanced defender, especially considering, you know, post power creep, we normally would see like 2800 in a primary stat. He has 2900 in both, but of course that's because those pilots that have that in the primary stat would have the job license bonus, giving it another like 10, 15, 20%, whatever. So end of the day, his values are what we'd expect of a defender. Not terrible, not great. He's definitely on the much higher end as far as defenders go for offensive values. He's got some good defense kind of starting there. Statistically, honestly, not bad. Like, all things considered, this is a statistically solid defender that's not a build project. Cool. And tags Commander and Force Space. That's very interesting. A Commander being one of the core shot tags at the 10% shot attack didn't directly give it away, and the Force Space tag giving, you know, your boosts. I'm not a big fan of the 4 line of tags. I find that, you know, we're not able to pick the maps that we really play on, so they have only limited use unless you play in one of the few game modes where you can actually select the map you're playing on. Yeah, it does activate not a lot, but it does activate a healthy amount of traits. We've been seeing a lot more of the 4 line of tags kind of activating stuff, which is neat. But yeah, because we're not able to choose our stage in most content, I just find this not really the best tag in the world. But use whatever floats your boat. The Commander tag is really interesting overall, though, because he's a defender. He has a balanced melee shot thing. Yeah. It's a nice tag to have. You probably want a different pilot in the front, though, and back slot this guy just for the tag. Potentially the stats. Like, the stats, again, are nothing to scoff at. Good numbers. Yeah. Honestly, like, as far as gacha pilots go, he's not the best we've seen in a while, but like, he's pretty good. Cool. Still don't like his trait, though. All right. So with that all out of the way, on to the worst part, for me anyways, alterations. Before that, though, I guess we should look at the Twitter videos, huh? We'll start off with the limited suits as we go through the Twitter videos, just so the animations are kind of fresh in the head. Let's see here. So that's our V2. And that is our not V2. Okay. Let's get that Twitter video panel up. Cool beans. All right, so from the top. Okay. I don't like that animation at all. That's an easy whiffer. Those had homing. It's, you know, it was definitely an EX skill. So let's take a look at our V2 Assault Buster here while we have those skills playing over there on the side, and we'll just kind of go over it. Now, for anyone that hasn't seen me go over alterations before, very simple. I don't look at the stats for these. They are 7-star suits. Effectively consider them the strongest stuff in the game. Everything that's not 7-star is obsolete. At least statistically, mind you. Direct stat-wise, you need 7-star if you want to be competitive. But if you want to just play the game and enjoy it, you don't need to worry about 7-star stuff. But that's besides the point. I don't look at the numbers. There's no point. I just assume that every 7-star that comes out is stronger than the previous ones, because that's just how it's kind of been since like the power creep stuff happened. Yeah. So I just look at the traits or EX skills because those are guaranteed change whenever an alteration happens. And I take a look at the word tags just for continuity's sake because, you know, haven't seen the suit before. It should be noted, alteration does take a good amount of resources to actually do. You know, depending on how long you've played, you may have a lot of them, you may not. It's always recommended to make sure that before you alter a part, you make sure that the stats before and after are exactly what you expect, because there is no going back, and like I said, it does cost a good amount of resources. Better safe than sorry. So anyways, let's go over the alterations, and yeah, hopefully I won't be here for 2 hours. I already know better. Okay, let's start with the head. Well, armor is 60% or more EX skill power boosted by 90%. So when I said I didn't have alcohol on hand, I was like partially lying. I just don't know if this stuff's good to drink anymore. I don't think it is. I'm not gonna risk it. That stuff needs to go. So that's like... So first trait is effectively like an 11 out of 10. As long as you have more than 60% armor, your EX skills just get an almost 100% boost. That's absolutely insane. Like I said, power creep's a thing. While Ace exclusive, enemy EX skill damage gets a further 40%. Now, I don't know if you know a lot about the V2 Assault Buster Gundam based on its general appearance. You know, the gun should give it away. It's a ranged suit. Your shot suit specifically, you're probably going to be wanting to run shot-related stuff. Ace exclusive being one of the 2 core tags for shot machines alongside Commander, giving you that 10% shot attack boost. So the chance of you not having Ace exclusive to benefit from that extra and EX skill damage is excessively slim. Something else to keep in mind, the way that the damage formula works, to our understanding, there's 2 separate areas where these damage boosts get applied. The first one, imagine it as the left side of the formula, because then, you know, you got kind of left side, right side equals whatever. On one side of the formula, you have whatever it is boosted by whatever percent. EX skill power boost, melee damage boost, shooting power boost, whatever, by 10, 20, 30, 90%, whatever. That's one side. The other side is enemy EX skill damage plus 40%, enemy melee damage plus 40%, enemy shooting damage plus whatever, right? The way that it works is, if you have everything stacked on one side of the equation, you'll do a lot of damage. If you have everything stacked on the other side, you're going to do a lot of damage. But if you have kind of half and half, you're going to do, theoretically, more damage. Not a ton. Not like, you know, 10,000 versus 300,000 or anything, not so like that, no. But it is a marginal increase. This part does its turn by having 1 and 1, and there's significant boosts. Obviously one much more significant than the other, 90% versus 40%, but it kind of just really works well. So there's 0 complaints about this. Overall, the traits are really good. You got 130% EX skill power boost overall, split between both sides of the formula, and the only requirements are have more than 60% of your health, which you're gonna probably have no matter what, and Ace exclusive. You're coming with that default running this part anyways, because, you know, it's on a shot suit, you know? It's crazy stuff. At some point, they level up the suits to 7-star just like they did with the gold ones. See, I would believe that, but just based on the numbers, it seems like the 7-star stat upgrades are more manually tuned than anything. So, I don't know, man. We'll see. Like, that's what it boils down to, right? Like, we'll see at the end of the day, but just got home. What did I miss? Hey, Kyle, here's what you missed. Just read that. Tell me when you're done. Just... Oh. I'm blown away. All right. Let's move right along to the torso here. Got the V2 rifle and legs in one pull. Man, look at you. Oh no, this is actually just straight water because I'm all at. I wish I still had the bottle of vodka here with me, but I drank it all doing deep dungeon because, man, did I need alcohol doing that deep dungeon, man. I need to go to the beer store again. See, Kyle, I would laugh at your joke, but if you scroll the chat back a little bit, you can actually see Mana saying the same thing to Alex. Actually, you can see it on the screen there. Did I drink too much or do I spy a 90% EX skill power boost? And you said the same thing. I just find that funny. Anyhow, V2 Assault Buster Gundam Torso. While Ace exclusive, EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. That's effectively highest modifier outside of like one other trait. Weapon reload speed down 15%. Enemy all damage plus 50%. I don't even know what to say, man. Like, this is crazy. So, yeah, no. What? All right. So obviously not as crazy and overblown as the head traits, but these are still very, very powerful traits in themselves. EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. Like I said, that's effectively highest outside of like one other modifier that we have. And that was on another limited Sokai suit. And then the weapon reload speed down 15%. Like I mentioned before, is effectively negligible. It's like less than a second on minimum, maybe a little over a second on maximum, who cares? And you get a 50% all damage boost. So everything you do is just 50% damage buffed. Cool. Ace exclusive heavy armor. What was the head? Same thing, I reckon? Ace exclusive heavy armor. Good lord. Alright. Let's take a look at the double saber shear D pierce A power. You do a whole bunch of reductions. Now, here's my problem, right? On paper, this sounds pretty nice. You got A power on this, very low cooldown. It reduces their melee attack, their shot attack, and their melee defense. Really good at softening them up for any future melee EX skills. There's a couple of problems here. Two really, really major issues here. The first one, the animation is not great. If I, let me grab the scrubber here really quickly. Let's see, ARM EX skill, here we go. Perfect. So here's the EX animation. The problem is, very easy to whiff, relatively long duration for what it is, bunch of swings. It doesn't look like there's any iframes because it looks like the normal double saber shear animation that we've seen 101 times. It's not a great EX skill to begin with. The second issue here, yeah, you can reduce up to 100% if you spend. Yeah, okay, that's great, but that it requires a ton of investment into debuff effects up, where there's other skills we have access to on equally limited parts that do this job better and need less extra investment and just are better. So, anyhow, as I was saying, the animation's terrible on this. But the second part, and I think what's the more important thing here, this is a melee skill on a shot part. And it decreases melee defense. I'm not saying you cannot run this on a melee suit, because you absolutely can. It's a 7-star altered part. Chances are the stats are ridiculous enough that it honestly won't really matter at the end of the day. But like, what? If it was like shot defense down, I could at least be like, all right, you know, it's softening it up for the other EX skill it's got. Nope. Inherently, it's not bad. The melee attack down, the shot attack down, the melee defense down, those are very powerful things to be able to apply to your enemy. If you put this onto one of your support suits, so not your primary offensive suit, but one of your support suits that has a ton of debuff EX effect up, like Mana was saying, you could very easily completely shred an enemy mobile suit or enemy Gunpla's defensive values, as well as make it hit like a wet noodle, because you're decreasing its attack values, both attack values, mind you, at a very high rate depending on how much effect ups you stack. At the same time, reducing their melee defense by a significant amount as well. So your primary suit could do a dummy thick amount of damage, let's be real here. It just requires a lot of setup. I just find it a very weird choice to put a beam melee skill on a shot suit, and then further double down by saying melee defense down when it's a shot suit. It's just an interesting little thing, you know, it's whatever. Ace exclusive heavy armor tags, I'm not even surprised. Let's keep going. I won't take too much investment, check the other suit. So like, here's the thing, Alex, is I haven't seen the other suit at all. And the reason for that is because, you know, I kind of like the surprise of it. I'm happy that you've informed me that, you know, this is very, very good when you pair it with something I haven't seen yet, but I'm about to look at in like 10 minutes or so. I appreciate that. But calm the fuck down, man. Relax. All right. Assault Buster Gundam, the VSBR, and I assume that's the micro missiles, yeah. S- power, D pierce, beam shot. And I'm assuming, yeah, it's this one here. That's what I thought it was going to be. So this inherently doesn't look too bad. You fire your beam, you fire some homing missiles. There's really nothing to complain about there, except for it does appear you are in a standard interruptible pose. It's ranged. It gets a lot of leeway because you can do it from a distance. The AI is not great at interrupting you at a distance, so I can't really see it being too much of an issue. It's fine. S-, low cooldown. Yeah, no complaints. What's its power at level 1? That's actually a pretty good question. I'd assume A+. That was right. So you get this out of the box, A+ power on a low cooldown. That's pretty great. All right, backpack, and that is our cutscene, Assault and Buster. Sucker here. So you run up, you hit him with a wing, you hit him with a wing, you hit him with the toys, and then you hit him with another toy. Straightforward enough. What does this do? Raise melee attack of your squad by 29%. Healthy. Raise shot attack of your squad by 59%. Very healthy. Like that's very healthy. And squad continuously recovers 10% of armor at a time. I really need to know what it means by at a time, because I don't. Are you talking about per second? Are you talking about for the duration of this EX skill? Is it a buff that gets applied? If so, what's the duration of it? Because it doesn't really tell us here or anything. This is just very confusing, but on paper, it sounds absolutely amazing. The 59% shot attack boost on its own for your entire squad is really friggin' cool. The 10% armor heal is relatively significant. 10% is nothing to sneeze at. The melee attack is kind of more of a token amount, 29%, but considering everything else it does, yeah. Double S- power, A- pierce, and I should note that's also a big rarity to see. Normally when you have something above S power, it typically has D pierce or very low pierce to make up for the fact it hits so hard. But not only does this have a double S- power, but it has an A- pierce. It's ignoring a significant amount of the enemy's defenses and resistances while also slapping it like a freight train, on top of giving you a very healthy boost. Now, one thing I want to check really fast here, does it apply the boost before you go running at them? It does not. So oh wait, no, it does. Hold up. What? So you can see the buff icons here. Okay. So you activate this, you're giving yourself a 59% buff to this EX skill because it's a beam shot. It's already double S- power out of the gate on top of any other shot boost you may have, and then you go and beat the crap out of them. The 10% armor is also part of the buff. You can't see it very well because of the resolution here, but the first one's a wrench, which is recovery. Okay, that's bonkers, actually. That's crazy. This is a very, very nice EX skill. We missed the word tags. Unless I'm mistaken, this is mostly heavy armor Gundam type and Ace exclusive, is it not? Yep, Ace exclusive heavy armor, Ace exclusive heavy armor, Ace exclusive heavy armor, and then on the legs we change over to Ace exclusive Gundam type. Yep, and then Ace exclusive Gundam type. Yeah. No, that the Assault and Buster for the V2 Assault Buster backpack, that's mint. If it applied the buffs after the animation was over, it would still be good, but not amazing. But because it applies all of those buffs before it does anything, you gotta remember, right? So first of all, during the entire duration of your EX skill, you're healing, while they can do nothing but sit there and take damage. 2, you've buffed yourself 59% up for your shot attack. That doesn't count any other buffs you may have. You know, if you have the head, for example, that's another 90% boost plus 40%, and so on and so forth. You're just doing a dummy thick amount of damage with this to begin with. The double S minus is a huge boon in and of itself. The A minus pierce, you're ignoring a ton of the resistances altogether as a big whole package. That thing's terrifying. Keep it away from me. All right, let's take a look at the weapons for this suit and move on. The Mega Beam Rifle. When buffed, squad buff EX skill effect, plus 30%. Okay. That can be pretty useful. So whenever you're using a buff EX skill, this is effectively meaning the effect is just 30% additive on. So if you're looking at the, I think it would work for like the Assault and Buster, because that's a squad buff, which this falls under. Although I don't know if it directly refers to something like a Gamma, where it just does a buff, or if it just includes any and all buffs. Again, translation stuff. I really wish they'd be a little more clear on this. But anyways, it's additive, so if you have something that's 19% and this works with it, it would be 49%, so on and so forth. Melee attack down 10%, enemy all damage plus 40%. That's very straightforward as well. You're doing 10% less melee damage, which you don't care about. This is a beam rifle. All enemies all damage plus 40%, so any kind of damage is just getting a 40% boost tacked on. The effect basically was your squad gets buff effect up. Yeah, that's what I figured. Again, I really just wish they'd fix the translations. It's not like it takes a long time to fix these, considering they're all just the same string recycled. Anyways, so yeah, whenever you use a buff, it just gets a 30% addition tacked onto it. And of course, 40% all damage boost. Very, very good combination of traits on that beam rifle. All right, let's take a look at the other beam rifle. And this one, yeah, this is a magazine skill. Dirty. All right, and I think that was the last thing. No, it's the first thing that we saw, wasn't it? Yeah. So they just kind of run at them, fire it. It seems to be a dumb fire missile. So yeah, there wasn't enough distance to tell if it was smart or dumb. I'm assuming a dumb missile, because if they were smart missile magazines, that would just be too much. 15 mag, is that a record? I believe there is one other 15 mag EX skill in the game. There may be more, but I recall one. Now, let's look at our numbers here. We have A power, D minus pierce. Okay, so a couple of differences. Typically, we would see D pierce, not D minus pierce. Simultaneously, we would also see B power or B plus power, sometimes A minus power. Seeing the combination of A power and D minus pierce, that's interesting. Lots of power, very little pierce. It's just a blunt object to hit things with. Considering magazine EX skills for shot machines are extremely useful, I don't see a problem with this. The entire point is just do tons of damage. It doesn't matter how much defense you have, it's like a bunker buster. Flip side, 15 magazine, that is crazy. Normally, before the power creep happened, normally magazines were 8 as a maximum. After alterations and power creep and everything, we saw that go up to 11. Sometimes we saw the rare kind of go a little past that, 12, kind of here and there, and not really that common, but it was mostly 11. And now we're looking at 15. I like it. The full armor and S-Type F90 arm have 15 mags. Yeah, there you go. I knew it wasn't the first time we've seen it. I know I've seen 15 magazine before. I just couldn't remember how many of them we'd actually seen. Because, you know, I do this, and then 2 weeks later I do it again, and again, and again, and everything starts blurring together into a big mess. Anyways, 15 magazine is not unique, but it's a very powerful weapon. A power, very good. D- Pierce can honestly be ignored considering the power and the magazine size on this. No problems at all. This is a good magazine EX. Alright. Makes exclusive and heavy armor. Okay. And what's our beam shield bringing to the table? Job gauge increase down 10%. Now, for people that are, you know, often here, you know, I'm not the biggest fan of the job gauge, stuff in general, outside of, you know, obvious job licenses. I just find that the job gauge and what it does, not really the best implemented. Could be way better than it currently is. Hey, but you know what? You use it, keep using it. Don't let anybody stop you. Don't let me tell you how to play the game. I just don't think that it's really that great, and honestly I never really find myself with a full job gauge anyways in most content, so it's not like I really even to use it. Anyways, the increase rate is decreased by 10%. Not a lot, honestly, so I look at it as kind of like I don't care, but at the end of the day 10% is relatively negligible to begin with. And with that, enemy EX skill penetration reduced by 130%. EX skill penetration, that's effectively pierce. So that is a significant reduction. But here's the rub, right? You may have noticed that I said pierce. Pierce is represented by letters. This is represented by numbers. Unfortunately, we don't have a handy-dandy grading scale to know exactly where all of these numbers actually fall off in terms of, you know, percentage values. So it has A+ pierce. Does that mean 20%, 80%, 300%, 17 billion%? Who knows? Nobody does, truly. So when this says it reduces EX skill pen by 130%, that's a big number. I got no complaints. What the fuck does it mean? And then the second trait with rifle category equipped, rifles are ubiquitous in this game. They are a dime a dozen. You will find so many rifles in this game of so many varying stats, traits, tags. You'll find one that fits your needs. Buff EX skill effect up 40%. Now that is significant. So what this effectively means is anything that applies a buff, much like the previous part we were looking at, that, you know, squad buff EX skill effect up, this is the same deal. So, for example, you may remember that this suit, the backpack, does have an ability that boosts your shot attack by 59%. Well, if you also have this shield equipped, and you have a rifle equipped so you're activating that second trait, it's no longer a 59% shot attack buff to your entire squad, but a 99% boost to your entire squad. It's just a flat addition. That's a very powerful second trait. 40% is a very high modifier number. The first trait, while not amazing, jaw-dropping, or anything in that vein, you know, honestly, that second trait's really good. Any buff you do is just getting a 40% addition onto it. That's... yeah. Now, granted, this is only for your suit, not for your entire squad, so that should be kept in mind. But if you're putting this onto your, like, primary offensive suit, or potentially you're putting this onto a support suit that has squad buffs available, good mileage to be had. What's the level 1 value for the first trait? With 130, I'm going to assume like 80 or 90%. 90%, yeah. Okay. Cool stuff. So the V2 Assault Buster packs a lot of heat, which makes sense considering what it actually is. It has some excessively powerful traits on there. Its backpack is bonkers. Solid suit. All right, let's take a look at our, what is that? Tall or tail? My eyes are failing me. Tall. The Tall Strike Gundam Glitter. It's an interesting name. Okay, well, let's start from the top, work from the head, and go down, shall we? Head-mounted Vulcans. Ooh, hold on. That's different. Okay. Normally when we see a head-mounted Vulcan EX skill, it's D-D or D-D-. Very, very low. This actually has C power. Granted, that's not really much of a step up. It's just different. And I like that. I like the different. Melee and shot attack now by 24%. That's a significant debuff too. Normally it's like 19% or something. So overall, cool. Also has a very short cooldown. Bro, not really that tall. It doesn't even have the big tags. Thing's a midget. All right. So that head-mounted Vulcan is still a head-mounted Vulcan. I'm not really feeling anything from it. It's not really anything I'm super hyped about. But I will make the note that it does have C power, which is different from the overwhelming majority of all of the Vulcan EX skills that are in the game. Beyond that, the debuff being 24% instead of the typical 19%. It's also something that should be pointed out. It's not the first one that's gone above 19%. It's just not that common. Okay. Interesting head. It's not amazing because the EX skill or anything, but all right. High mobility Gundam type word tags. Okay. Definitely workable tags. High mobility and Gundam type both activate a absolutely crazy amount of traits through this game. They're very accessible on a ton of suits, so you're not going to have an issue activating it. All right. Did we not do the Twitter video? I'm waiting to get to an EX skill that actually is like there, but you're right. I'll play it now. I did have it open and ready to go. I was just waiting to get to the first EX skill before I played it, but you know, let's see what it's about. Let's check it. No way, was that the head-mounted Vulcan? All right, so let's take a look at its EX skills. So it's got a Alright, hold on. Were those all shockwaves? Alright, what's next? A little too prolonged for my taste, but I have a feeling that's probably one of those like cooldown reduction things tacked on there. All right, well, anyways, let's take a look at the torso here, and we'll just leave that running. Okay. So, Tall Strike Gundam Glitter Torso. With dual saber category, equip debuff EX skill effect up 40%. So that's much like the buff EX skill effect up. This is a very powerful thing for debuffs. So for example, the head mounted Vulcans that did the 24% reduction for the melee and shot, this would effectively pump those numbers up to 64%. That is a lot. Now, it obviously does work for other stuff as well. So when we were looking at the previous suit where it had the EX skill where 19% defense down, it'd be 59% defense down then, right? So 40% is a significant value. That is something to keep in mind for that. Cool stuff. When melee attack is over 12,000, EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. 12,000 is a very easy number to pass, so it's more of a inevitability, and you get the cooldown reduction up. So that's a very interesting torso part. You're getting a lot of cooldown, one of the highest modifiers in the game for this, and you're also getting a 40% debuff EX thing. Now, it should be noted, if you're running a suit that doesn't have any debuffs, obviously that first trait is going to be completely worthless to you. But if you are running a suit that has, for example, a couple of weeks ago, one of the suits was kind of like a softener style suit. It had a couple of EX skills that you would kind of lead up to using your big skill because they reduce the enemy's beam resistance, their shot defense. And then the final thing was this big beam shot skill that just kind of leveled the playing field with them because they just lost a bunch of their defensive values. This would make that effect so much better. Because again, you're using it to kind of soften their defenses up with the debuffs, and then you hit them with something that just removes them from the planet. Now, overwhelmingly, you may not even need the debuffs, because unless you're fighting something that's a very close statistical value to you, or you're fighting something way above your statistical values, you typically don't need to really soften them up. You just hit them with the big hammer of EX skill power boosts, pretty much. This is a big number. This will help a lot. Pretty much like the buff EX skill effect up 40%, this is as good in the opposite direction. So cool stuff. Paired with the cooldown reduction, yeah, this is a really solid part. Do I mean Musha? I can't remember the name of the suit off the top of my head, but it was another shot style suit where the entire point was you just... Actually, let's just hop out of this suit really quick because it was really recent too. Yeah, it was this one, the Jigen Blast. Yeah, it was the last week's suit. But its entire shtick was hitting them with a couple of softeners. Musha's melee. Yeah, no. But anyways, the point stands. Torso's very interesting. Debuff effect, very good. Mucho powerful. All right, let's check out the arms. Glitter Rev and Short Pistol. Okay, now I'm pretty sure this was that pseudo cutscene thing we saw. Yeah, it's this one. So you run at them, you fire a couple of blasts, which decrease their melee and shot attack by 39%. That's a very significant value, again. And you hit them, and you bind them up into this, and so on. Now, from what was being mentioned in chat, that dash period does not have iframes. So there's a couple of humongous issues with that. The first one, you're using that to dash at your enemy. If they use a bindable EX skill, if they shoot at you, if they throw their shield at, if they pretty much do anything to attack you, you're going to lose the majority of your EX skill there. Because even though your first shots will probably land and reduce their melee and shot attack by whatever percentage based on the value, the item level of the part, you're not going to get the big damage off of it. That A+ pierce, that A power, all of those hits that this animation shows. So it's kind of a trade-off. You're trading a large debuff and a healthy amount of damage for potentially just getting interrupted clean out of it and it going on cooldown. Is that worth it to you? I probably wouldn't, honestly. Oh, okay, there, you don't have the iframe when using the back EX skill. Okay, yeah, so I did misread that. So this is actually the skill that was being talked about with the lack of iframes. The dash forward, as this entire thing is a bindable. Where is it? There you are. So you do have the entire dash in. So we'll work with that being the base then. So take what I said, eat it. So this has your iframes, bindable EX skill. You dash at them, shoot them, smack them. If you're also rocking, the debuff booster from the torso, that's going to be a lot. That's 39% plus 40%. You're getting a fat 79% reduction. That is nice. End of the day, though, 39% just off the rip. Nice. My only real issue with that, though, is you're applying it and then trapping them in this animation that's taking like 7-8 seconds to clear. You're literally just eating into that debuff time. And to me, that's just like a weird decision, It makes sense when you look at the EX skill thematically. I wish that they had changed it up though, so you hit them and then your final hits are like the gunshots to apply the debuff, just so that you get the most out of it. End of the day though, A plus Pierce, A power, cutscene cooldown. My issue with this, considering the cooldown, considering it's a bindable, considering it's a limited Sokai part, why is it A plus A? Why is it not, you know, one of these values S? It's not bad. A plus Pierce is going to ignore a significant amount of defenses and resistances. A power means it's going to hit hard. But for what it is, I was just expecting a little more in the S department, frankly. Yeah. Not terrible, not amazing, unless you're looking to just reduce their attack values by a bunch. So this is something I'll put on the mileage may vary list. It's a weird mix combo, you know? It's not bad. The animation, not my cup of tea personally, but it doesn't look bad. It's not like a 12-second or anything crazy long EX skill. And you get a fat debuff on it. High mobility Gundam type tags. Okay. All right, let's check out the legs. What traits do we got over here? When shot attack is over 12,000, that's inevitability. You're going to get that whether or not you're building a melee suit. EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. Okay. Yeah, good mod. With dual saber category equipped, debuff skill time up 40%. So the torso increases the effect by 40%. This increases the time by 40%. Now, as I mentioned previously, typically your fights really shouldn't be lasting longer than the duration of these buffs and debuffs. Obviously, you know, enemy might have a clear or something, but that's besides the point. End of the day, a 40% skill time up, that could be a lot of time, but the fight should be over before the debuff wears out base, let alone having increased time. I'm not saying don't use this part. I'm just saying that if you're doing a map and you're buffing yourself and debuffing the enemy and you're not finishing the fight before they wear out, you probably want to go back to the drawing board and maybe think of another plan. Of course, it's different if you're a new player. Those fights take a long time because you don't have access to crazy EX skills. You don't have insanely high stat values to just snowball through everything. But I just don't think increasing the time of a debuff is really, you know, the dream, so to speak. The cooldown reduction is really powerful though. I feel like that second trait's kind of meh. All right, the backpack strike Punisher. So this is the one that you were saying that didn't have iframes. Now, unless I'm mistaken, I don't think any of the strike Punishers have ever had iframes. Now, in case you were unsure what it was, you missed it, weren't paying attention, it's this. You swing your sword a bunch of times and you just fire out shockwaves. Based on the distance that enemy is getting hit at, which is the other side of the map there effectively, we got healthy range. We have very quick attack. So once they get hit by one of them, the chance of them being able to dodge out of it is very slim. It's a ranged melee EX skill, meaning it's using the melee modifiers for damage while also being ranged, which is very powerful. A minus Pierce, A minus power, that's going to be great, ignoring a lot of the resistances, a lot of the defense, hitting very hard. The only real kind of meh about this whole thing is the fact that the cooldown is so long. It makes sense when you look at it. It's so powerful. It's because you're also snapping to targets as you're going through them. If you were able to spam this skill, you could literally just sit in one place and just literally keep swinging your sword and just clean the map out without having to move. So that cooldown is there to balance how powerful this skill is. It's good. You're getting that melee defense down debuff, the beam resist down debuff, but those are really secondary. It's the fact that it's A minus ranged melee. Yeah. Here's just the cooldown was lower, you know? Let me spam it, have some fun. High mobility, close combat tags, yeah. All right, let's look at our first set of beam sabers. No, dual sabers, but beam sabers. With Oh, okay. When melee attack is over 12,000, initial EX skill charge boosted by 30%. That's, I believe, the higher end of the initial EX skill charge percentages. I think it may have gone up to 35% on some other limited suits, but I'm pretty sure 30% is kind of like the definite higher end there. Melee attack over 12k is like super easy to get. Don't even bother with that. With twin rifle category equipped, now those are getting more common. They're still not like super duper common or anything, but you can find one easily enough. Enemy all damage plus 40%. All right. So initial EX skill charge affects that first cooldown cycle for your skills. So instead of having to wait 8 seconds, this is chopping off 30%. So, you know, it's like 5 seconds change that you're waiting instead. Not a crazy timer, because you have to remember, for example, PvP, you spawn in, you land, your timers are already starting to tick for your cooldowns, and then you get the big red warning, the enemies drop in, but the whole time that's happening, your timers are just ticking away. And more often than not, you only need like maybe 1 or 2 initial EX skill charge booster things for PvP, and as soon as the match starts, all your stuff's ready to go. Obviously, that's different for content where you don't have that buffer window at the very beginning. But initially, a skill charge boost, convenient. And the all damage, obviously, it's all damage 40%. Anything you do that does damage, just a bonus onto it. I think it's 30% still. Yeah. Anyways, end of the day, very good for initial EX skill charge, holds one of, if not the highest modifier available for it, and the requirement is super easy. And the all damage plus 40% is a very powerful damage booster, because that's everything. Your shots, your melees, everything. And because you can have twin rifles on shot or melee, and melee attack over 12k is going to be applicable to shot machines, melee machines, you name it. There's no issue with this on any type of build. Nice. High mobility, close combat, word takes. All right, so you'd probably want to run this more on a melee suit than anything, but you have your options. All right, let's take a look at our short pistols. 55% chance of attacks penetrating super armor, and 55% chance of attacks penetrating, 110% chance. So if you need to stagger something, this is your ticket. However, it should be stated that it is possible, even though this is 110%, you can still get super armor, you can still hit enemy and they still have super armor, because it is, you gotta remember, a trait exists called X% chance to not recoil. That is super armor. If their value is higher than your penetration super armor value, they simply will not stagger. This, yeah. It's a very neat gimmick. I'll give it that. It's just going to be viable in very, very few situations, is pretty much all that there is to it. High mobility Gundam type, okay. And lastly, our dual rifles here. The short pistols. Now, I'm kind of sad because we got the Strike Noir, and the Strike Noir didn't come with cool little dual pistols. I'm sad. Percent chance to not recoil hasn't been printed in ages. I don't think it's a big deal. Yeah, you're not wrong on that, man. Absolutely. I'm just saying that it is there and it does exist. So it's just something to keep in mind. If you are running 110% chance to have your enemies, you know, ignore their super armor, and you hit them and they don't stagger, just know that if they have chance to not recoil, your chances are most likely no longer 110%. It's probably lower. It still did that for some reason, rifle. Yeah, but that's what I mean. It didn't have the proper weapons for Strike Noir is what I'm getting at. Because like every iteration of the Strike Noir has its dual beam pistols. And then this one was just like, no. Which is fine. Creative decision. Just, yeah. Anyways, let's take a look at our pistols. Shot attack down 5%. That's very straightforward. Debuff EX skill time up 50%. And melee attack down 5%. Debuff EX skill effect up 45%.
Why? That's really the only really philosophical question I can ask looking at this is why. So if you're gonna be running a suit that has a debuff on it in some fashion, you're probably gonna want to pick up the short pistol. Even though I did say that the duration of a debuff really is not that big of a deal, this just does a really good job of packaging it up with something else that is very potent, and the trade-offs are like negligible. So you're trading 5% of your shot attack and your melee attack, but any debuff you do is now 45% more potent, so just 45% bonus onto it, and lasts twice, 50% as long, so 1.5x. So your small loss in shot attack is immediately made up for whatever the debuff is, effectively. You hit them with the old, hey man, I'm going to reduce your shot defense by 30%, is now I'm going to reduce it by 75%. And that 5% shot attack that you traded is just smoke in the wind at that point. It doesn't matter when you reduce 75% of the defenses and resistances. Yeah. I don't really have anything else to say about this. It's a very powerful part for any debuffs that you may be running. The trade-offs are negligible because of what it does. It's crazy. Cool beans. So overall, the Tall Strike Gundam Glitter, yeah, no, it's got the Punisher backpack, which is just an amazing melee EX skill. It has the dual pistols, which are just, that's some really good debuff stuff going on there if you're running any kind of debuff in your kit. And it does obviously have other parts to help supplement that debuff value so that you can get really dumb numbers for your debuffs. Yeah, overall, yeah, power creep. Vulcan is meta now. So funny enough, you are right on that. If you ran all of the Tall Strike Gundam Glitter, that's going to be well over 100% melee, or yeah, 100% debuff on that. And what was it? It was defenses, right? Both of its defense types? No, it was shot. So melee and shot attack would both be reduced by over 100%. If you go and look at other ones where they reduce defensive values, they would reduce defensive values by over 100%. At the end of the day, I'm not going to say Vulcans are ultra meta or anything, but if you run a Vulcan with all that debuff stuff available to you, yeah, they're not really going to have a lot to play with, you know? Kind of spooky. Kind of spooky. All right, let's go take a look at those permanent altars now, because I do want to wrap this up and kind of go to sleep because I'm freaking tired. Now, from what I'm looking at here, we have, instead of the normal 3 reds, 3 golds, we have 2 reds and 3 golds. Nice. We'll start with the Musha, then we'll go to the Crossbone, and we'll go from there. Now, as these are not limited Sokai, 7 stars, what have you, and they are previously released suits that are now getting a alteration, I am just going to look at the traits to see what was added, or EX skill to see what it now is. Yeah, there's going to be much more, there's going to be more brevity in this section, effectively. So, the Musha Gundam Super Hagane version, with technique attribute self EX skill power boosted by 30%. Ooh, oh my, yes. I've just been inquired as if I want if I want McDonald's, which I do. The Midnight Munchies are real. Anyways, on to this. The 30% EX skill power boost, that's powerful. We do have higher modifiers available, but those are typically restricted to limited Sokai Festival units. So, yeah, but considering what this is, 30% is very healthy. The technique attribute is a little but you know what? Yeah, you gotta kind of roll with the punches with what you get. While heavy armor, buff EX skill effect up 30%. Heavy armor, very available word tag. Mentioned it before. The buff EX skill effect, you know, overall, it's solid. I personally don't like the technique attribute requirement for the first trait, is what it is though. The heavy armor, a little more flexible on that, but considering heavy armor is shot attack, not melee attack, but it does give you some melee defense, I guess. It's not as ideal considering what the Musha Gundam's strengths are, you know? Actually, hold on a second here. Let's get rid of the Twitter video stuff real quick, and I need to open Discord real fast. Give me a moment. Yeah, that's what I'm feeling. Quarter pounder and a cheeseburger with bacon. Yeah. All right. Anyways, Musha Gundam, the alteration, adding the heavy armor buff skill effect up. It's a good number. I'm not really sure this kind of... Thematically, it makes sense. It just doesn't really work with, I think, what the suit's trying to do, which is more melee than anything. The technique attribute, like I said, not the biggest fan of that restriction, but the 30% EX skill power boost for what the suit is definitely very powerful. Overall, all right. Thematically, got a nice upgrade. All right, torso. SD tackle. Oh no. Okay, SD tackle, for those of you that didn't have to deal with the SD Gundams from that one event way back when, you know which I'm talking about, guys. It's hell on earth. If it is used against you, it is single-handedly the most powerful skill in the game, impossible to stop, and will end your life on contact. If you use it, it hits like a wet noodle, you can't seem to actually reach your opponent at any time, and it's just really bad. Overall, please don't let this fall into the hands of any suit that's controlled by an AI. Feel free to use it yourself, though. Yeah, good buff. I hate this EX skill so much. I hate that skill so much. Alright. Arms. While Gundam type, melee power boosted by 30%. Gundam type, very easy to get your hands on. Good tag. The melee power boost, mint. Beyond that, middle shooter job, EX skill cooldown reduced by 20%. It's a very interesting kind of thing it's got going on, right? Because it's definitely more of a melee suit, but at the same time, it's like, hey man, let's just throw a wrench into the works. Gundam type raises shot attack instead of focusing on melee, but then it also boosts melee power. And then it wants a middle shooter job, even though this is a melee-centric part, and you get a cooldown reduction. It's just got some really weird priorities, you know? I would say that the additional trait, if you're running a shot suit and you don't have anything better, very good. Middle shooter job, really easy to get. The 20% cooldown reduction, absolutely cool, like great stuff. The first trait, if you're running a melee suit, you're effectively sacrificing your tertiary tag. Gundam type does activate a lot of good traits, mind you, but it's more shot-centric than melee-centric, obviously, because the word tag boosts shot more than melee. But the 30% melee power boost is a really hefty number for what this part is. Again, it's a, if you don't really have anything better, this could do the trick for you until you get something better. But it's very contradictory as a part. I'm just not really sure how to feel about it. Like, it's a part, it's not terrible, but it just doesn't seem to know what it wants to do. Legs, what do we got here? Bukyumaru. D pierce, A- power, unleash a barrage of attacks. I honestly can't remember the animation for this at all. I'm assuming it's a lot like the double saber shear, where it just swings its weapons a bunch of times and tries to hit whatever in front of it. Problem is, it's an SD Gundam. It's got a very small range in comparison. Easy enough to break out of if it's the animation I'm thinking of. Easy to whiff. It does boil down to the animation. On paper, looks fine. High damage, low cooldown. Something like that. It's a spear though. Yeah, so it really does boil down to the animation, which I'm not able to see, at least not right away, but there's better stuff. Okay, the Shin Samurai Nichiren Giri. That's a mouthful. D Pierce S Power cutscene cooldown bindable EX skill raise melee attack for your squad by 49%. I'm not sure if this gets applied before or after. If it gets applied before the animation, cool stuff. If it gets applied at the end of the animation cycle, still good, just not as good as it could be. A lot like what I was saying with the V2 Assault Buster. Before the animation, all right. So you got your S power, 49% melee attack boost. There's no real complaints about that. So nice, solid EX skill for what it is. All right, the weapon, the Bukyumaru. When C power is over 15,000, 150,000, sorry, it doesn't matter, it's a rounding error. Enemy melee power reduced by 30%. I'm not a big fan of these unless it's put on like one of your support suits, but even then they only affect the suit it's actually on, so very limited actual usage. Second trait, for 30 seconds after being attacked with an EX skill, all enemy melee damage plus 40%. The problem with this, you gotta let the enemy use an EX skill, you gotta take damage from an EX skill, I assume, and you don't want either of those things to happen. Even if you don't need to take damage from it, you don't want them activating it to begin with, because it could be an SD tackle and then you're just dead. Or it could be a colony drop and you're just dead. So like, is it really worth 40% melee damage? No. It's a rage trait. Yeah, it makes me rage. Bro, do you have an extra Chinese account? I don't have a Chinese account to begin with, let alone an extra one. All right. And the last part for the suit, the Tanegashima rifle. Before 60 seconds pass, job gauge increase boosted by 17%. I've talked about the job gauge. If you use it, this would be a pretty handy trait, I guess. Do we need a Chinese account to play Gundam? So I don't know if you're looking at the screen, but this is in English, not Chinese. I don't know where you got the idea you need a Chinese account. Now, okay, to be fair, there are a good amount of Gundam games that are restricted to the Chinese region, and you can't just get them unless you go through like a side loader or you have a specific like installer for Chinese Google Play games. This game doesn't require it. This is just download and play, and then you can pick your region. I'm pretty sure there's a Chinese server for it, though. But no, you don't need one to play this game. And when armor is 70% or more, job gauge increase boosted by 40%. So this is literally just your job gauge booster, 50% or 57% total boost, as long as it's the first minute of whatever you're doing, and you have more than 70% of your armor. That's a significant boost to your job gauge, but simultaneously, you gotta like using the job gauge to begin with. So it's definitely build like dependent on the build. Not a big fan of the rifle. So the Musha Gundam got some kind of interesting stuff tacked onto it. Little, like, contradictory stuff in there, too. Interesting overall for what it is. Yeah, nice additions, honestly. Not, like, super crazy, but... Alright, let's check out our Crossbone Gundam X3. Man, you look really familiar. I wonder why. I actually want to play Chinese version. Don't have any Chinese account like WeChat or QQ. Unfortunately, man, like I really can't do much to help you. All I can suggest is sideload and find the APKs online. You're obviously going to run into a lot of trouble if you ever want to spend any money on those games, because I'm pretty sure you need to use the official loader now these days to actually be able to buy currency for games, unless they have like their own third-party thing for it. But yeah, you do you. I would just recommend trying to Google for the APK for whatever game you want. Find the name of the game in Chinese, Google that with the APK. It's the best I got for you. I've never gone out of my way to download a Chinese server game before. It's either Japanese or English, just because Japanese is typically the home server for most of the stuff I play, and English is the language I natively speak and understand. What a deja vu. I know, right? X3, it's like we were just looking at this or something. Sus. All right. So melee damage raised at 10%, so you're taking 10% more melee damage, and EX skill power boost to 30%. That's solid. Honestly, I just go back to my old saying, don't get hit. Straightforward enough. With speed attribute, so your suit has 5 or more parts of the speed attribute equipped, so you're speed attributed, EX skill cooldown reduced by 20%. I don't like the fact it locks you into the triangle, like I've said multiple times for other stuff. The cooldown reduction of 20%, that's a solid, that's like the highest modifier outside of Limited and Sokai that we've seen, I think with like maybe one exception. Yeah, so you get the EX skill power boost, EX skill cooldown reduction. Very, very good with that whole symbiosis thing that's going on. Yeah, the real only hang up I have is a speed attribute requirement, but if you can work around that, that's really nice. Torso. And I like this head's basically flexible boost as attribute suits you can use on melee or shot. Yeah. It's solid. It's just an EX skill steroid kind of thing. Less cooldown, more output. Nothing to really complain about there except for the speed attribute requirement, but work around that. Beautiful. All right, Crossbone Gundam X3 Torso. Chest Gatling Cannon, eh? B plus Pierce, B power. Look at that cooldown though. Damn. Yeah, so cooldown wise, this is an absolute spam machine. B plus Pierce, B power, that alone makes it, for what this suit is, good. Factor in the cooldown of 1 second initial so you can literally use it off the rip, and a 10-second cooldown base after that. Man, you're literally not gonna have this thing on cooldown at any point. Like, you can literally just sit there and just mash the one button to spam it. That's crazy. Spray and pray. Yeah, there's obviously the trade-off for it, but that's really cool. I like that. I'm not going to say this is a must-alter, must-get part or anything like that, but it's really cool. I'll give it that. On paper, looks really, really, really cool. Arms. I-Field Generator. Raise your melee attack by 39%. Raise your shot defense by 49%. Raise your beam and physical resist by 29%. What did you send me a video here for, Mana? Give me a second here. This is a video of one of the suits. Oh, you're showing me the EX. Okay, okay. Yeah, let's take a look at it. Yeah, the spread on that EX skill is actually atrocious. Let's pull it up here real quick just so you guys can see what's up with it. Properties, hook into that, cool beans. So like, here's the EX skill for the torso. So as you can see, really bad accuracy. But when you consider the cooldown and everything, and you could just spray that eternally forever, as long as you get close enough, I wouldn't personally recommend it. The spread is really bad, but simultaneously, I do respect the B plus B and the 10-second cooldown. Like that's definitely something that is a thing. All right, anyways, back to this. So melee attack, 39% boost, shot defense, 49% boost, and the beam and physical resist, 29% boost. Honestly, really nice little package. The 39% melee attack is pretty cool. The shot defense, beam physical resist, I'm not the biggest fan of in the world, but all things considered, like, yeah, you know what? For what it is, yeah. I think, honestly, this is better than its sibling, which was just the defensive values plus 29%. This does give a little bit of that melee attack punch, you know? But tis. Yeah. Get enough buff modifiers on this, you can get some really silly stuff. It's an I-Field, so defense boost is basically mandatory. Yeah, of course. Of course. Not gonna lie, I think the chest is a better Vulcan than Vulcans may be, even without stagger. Well, that's the problem with Vulcans, right? They just have, like, that chest EX skill for the X3 actually has a decent range to it. Vulcans have like almost no range. You got to get up close and personal to begin with for a shot skill, right? And then you have to pray that enough bullets hit to stagger, because it's the only way you're going to be able to follow up with anything at that point, right? This thing's torso is like, yeah, man, I may not be able to hit the broadside of a barn at 10 meters, but like I just fire and these bullets keep going. Right? So it's all trade-offs, really. It's great for mook clearing. If you have a bunch of enemies that you don't want to waste big EX skills on, you can just spray and pray. And there's a really high chance you're just going to mow through stuff because enough bullets, right? But yeah. Anyways, this eye field, pretty cool. Good buffs on it. Yeah. Legs. With speed attribute, enemy EX skill power reduced by 30%. So again, restricts you to having a speed attributed suit, but of course, the reductions there. But this only works for the suit this is equipped onto. So if you have this on one of your support suits, so not your primary combat suit, it won't benefit from the power reduction. Only whatever has it on will. And with Saber category equipped, EX skill cooldown reduced by 20%. That is a very powerful second trait to have. 20% again being generally the highest modifier we see for EX skill cooldown outside of limited and Sokai altars. Saber category, super easy to get. It's again much like the beam rifle, dime a dozen, you'll find one that fits what you need. I don't like the first trait. I like the second trait a lot. If you don't, you know, have a 2 traits thing that's like really good, this'll do. Backpack. All right. In-fighter job, melee power boost by 30%. Straight to the point. In-fighter job, super easy to get. Melee power boost 30%. Cool. While Force Space, buff EX skill effect up 30%. Like I said, Force Space doesn't have a lot of real use, but it does activate some nice traits. This is one of them. 30% buff EX skill effect up is definitely up there in terms of the value, and you just need Force Space. I don't like Force Space, like I said. I don't think this would be a good trade for me personally, but you do you. Again, remember, it's a 3% versus a 5% boost if you're off map. So if you don't care about absolute min-maxing or anything, your offensive values specifically, this might be the ticket for you. Melee power boost, buff EX skill effect up, depending on what you're doing. That could be some really nasty numbers in there. All right, not what I wanted to click. I wanted to click on the weapon, not on the event boost button. All right, the Muramasa Blaster. Whoa, wow, that's mighty familiar. D Pierce, A power, you perform a melee attack. All right, so pretty much exactly what I said about the Welfare X3's weapon. It really just boils down to the animation. A Pierce D or A power D Pierce though is a good combo. On paper, looks great. Hold on. Oh, okay, that's what that was. And the beam rifle. Is WeChat not banned in USA and Canada? Check the video for the animation. That requires me to open it again, man. I don't wanna. I don't know if WeChat's banned. Sorry, Nihal. I'm trying to go through like this content for the video because this is gonna take a while and it's already really late. Like it's almost 1 a.m. So I don't really have the time to play, 20 questions on walking you through this. I just recommend Googling. All right, the Muramasa Blaster. Job gauge increase down 10%. EX skill point. You better not. Did you buy anything for yourself?
So much your price.
How could you do this? They're my fries. I'm hoping, man. I'm hoping.
Much better way to keep yourself awake. Oh, coffee. We have a machine that brews it.
Okay,
for you.
but coffee tastes absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, that's why you add shit to it.
At that point, I might as well drink this because it's the same shit at the end of the day. Except one is bean juice and one is not.
Bean juice also has like 3 times the content.
I don't want 3 times the content. I need just enough to not fall asleep.
There you go. You just drink a third of that. Think about the calories you just did. Says the man in your french guys.
You're really not in a position to grandstand right now.
Hey. Fuck you.
Oh,
Some damn good fries, by the way. I gotta put these down and eat them all.
do you know WeChat's banned in Canada?
No.
I thought you know because of Sandra.
No, I'm saying no, I don't think it is. She still uses it.
Oh, okay.
Like last year, at least, she was still using it to talk to her friends. But
Oh, okay.
I don't recall her.
There's your answer, Nihal.
Why would we ban? We have a lot of Chinese here.
Yeah, I know.
They're still active
No,
on
there's
WeChat.
this guy that's just like asking a bunch of questions. He really wants to play games like on Chinese versions of the app for whatever godforsaken reason. He asked if WeChat was banned in Canada.
No. That'd be stupid if it was banned in Canada.
It would be.
Actually, when Sandra and I were in BC, she used her WeChat, her WeChat.
Okay, but that's BC.
Still Canada. In case you weren't aware, BC is actually in Canada. As nice as it is comparatively to Ontario.
Here's the reason it has
is
its
the same
nickname.
country.
Here's the reason it has its nickname.
What nickname? Please tell me. Please,
I'm not gonna say it.
please enlighten me on the stream. What nickname are you talking about? I wonder.
Oh, I look like I got idiot on my forehead now that you can see it because I don't have a mop on my head.
Now that I've emerged from the back room. Sunlight has hit my forehead.
Sorry guys, I'll start again in a minute. I'm just really hungry.
I'm gonna vibe until he's done eating. Because I'm eating his french fries.
You need to stop eating my french fries.
No. Here's the way I see it. I used a coupon for those fries, so all the money that was saved in the purchase, these cost the same as a medium fry, so I'm just eating the difference, you know?
I don't like your logic, but it pans out.
America.
I'll eat the rest of this when I'm done with the stream, so get out. Like, if you want, take the rest of the fries, man.
No, I do, but I won't.
You fucking monster. No, surprisingly, I'm a clean eater. What do you mean? Alright. Back to what we were doing. Where are fries at? Well, here are my fries. I don't know about your fries, but these are my fries now. He doesn't get any more, unless he sneaks in when I'm not looking. Anyway. So the Muramasa Blaster ranged. Job gauge increased down 10%. To me, like I've said, that's like a non-issue whatsoever. So to me, it doesn't even matter. EX skill power boosted by 30%. Good. Cooldown time up 10%. Now that's going to be kind of an issue, I guess. At the end of the day, 10% is negligible. Again, a lot like, you know, the weapon speed reload 15%. It doesn't really matter. But, you know, it looks scary when you see cooldown time up, right? But when you think about it, for example, you have a cutscene where its cooldown is 70 seconds, all right? 10% cooldown time up, 77 seconds. That's, oh, 7 seconds, that's a long time. Bro, 70 seconds is a huge amount of time. At that point, 7 seconds it doesn't even matter. Plus, you can still have cooldown reduction go past 100% to reduce this 10% extra issue down. So, end of the day, negligible. And trade-off, buff EX skill effect up 30%. So with this, 10% increase of your job gauge is gone. Cool, I don't care about that. You get a 30% EX skill power boost, and you deal with 10% extra cooldown time, but you get a buff EX skill effect 30%. Good combo. If the CDR 10% was different, it would probably be like more, well, it doesn't really matter. It's just in terms of like min-max kind of thing. I wish that was something simpler, like, you know, melee attacks above 5,000 or something, but it's definitely manageable. Okay. Honestly, Crossbone X3, not Welfare Edition. Cool stuff. So, let's pop on over to our Gundam Full Armor, the not Thunderbolt Edition. Alright. With speed attribute, shooting damage output boosted by a flat 20. That's absolutely useless. Moving right along. With speed attribute, EX skill cooldown reduced by 20%. So much like the other parts that kind of did, yeah, the less cool full armor, you're right. So much like a lot of the other stuff, the first trait, absolute wash. Second trait, really good. If you don't have anything better in the head slot, this might do it for you. But I would probably not invest a lot in this. I would look at other parts just because, yeah, EX skill cooldown 20% sounds good if you're running a speed suit. But I think you can do better and get a better first trait and kind of still get your CDR stuff. But you do you. Torso. The shoulder 6-barrel missile launcher. A pierce, B power, and reduce the target's melee attack by 29%. Low cooldown. On paper, beautiful. Good damage, great pierce, very low cooldown. There's nothing to complain about. This is just a nice EX skill to have on demand if you ever need it. Arms. The double barrel beam rifle. C power, A minus pierce, 15 magazines. This is kind of like, best way to put it, this is like baby's first magazine skill. It'll do the trick very early on, but once you get to a certain point in the game, you're gonna see power is very quickly replaced by the absolute myriad B power magazine EX skills that we have in this game. It's actually one of the most standard power levels for magazine EX skills is B. And there is a qualitative difference between C and B power. Of course, there are a very select few exceptions to that, where even though it says B power, it actually hits about the same as C power, but there's very, very few examples of that. Safer to assume B better. C crappy, B better. So again, I wouldn't invest heavily into this, but if you don't have anything better, you want a magazine EX, use this to kind of stopgap it, but I would switch out. Yeah, exactly, man. It has a niche. It's just, there's better stuff. All right, the legs. Leg missiles. Okay. A minus pierce, B plus power. You just fire some missiles, low cooldown. A lot like the torso EX skill. Nice to have on demand if you ever need it. No real complaints. I believe these are smart missiles, whereas the torso is a dumb missile. I may be mistaken. They may all be, or all of them may be smart. I'm not sure. But end of the day, still nice. You gotta remember, AI is AI. It's very good at running into things for you. So the only time you really have to worry about whether they're homing or not is if you're like aiming at a Gunpla that's running at another target, or you're using it to fight against players, because the AI is going to use it against a player, and they can very simply sidestep missiles, because it's really not hard. So, yeah, neat. All right, and backpack. Backpack. There we go. 360 millimeter rocket cannon. B plus power, D pierce. Very low cooldown, and you just fire from the cannon on your shoulder. I don't have a lot to say about this. It writes itself. The only thing I would be worried about is the animation. Is it something that you're able to, like, when you use it, does it stop time, or does it not? Pretty much the X Gundam conundrum. Because, like, if you use it and it stops time until you fire the projectile, nice. If you use it, but you can be interrupted out of it while you're prepping, aiming, and firing, not so great. Animation dependent, but on paper, looks really clean. Overall, all right. The only real letdown here was the magazine EX skill being at C power, but you know what? For what the suit is and everything else has available, sure. It doesn't stop time, it just shoots and eventually it's the target. From what I remember seeing, it's not quick to land. Again, the AI is just generally not smart enough to be able to dodge these kind of things. So, you know, you will find better, but it'll work as a stopgap. All right, let's check out Old Bert. Okay. When attacking with beam, shooting power boosted by 25%. Tons of beam in this game. Beam shot specifically. 25% boost, solid for what this is. While mid-range, boost funnel uptime by 60. Are we gonna do the funnel talk again? I was going so well. All right, so I'm sorry guys that know the funnel talk, but for those that don't, buckle up. So GBM has a real issue with beam funnels. Very simply put, when you are using a shot funnel, so any of the shooting funnels, not melee, shot specifically, the damage directly scales off of how many funnels that you're actually using. So if you're using something like the new Verka that has 6 funnels, if I remember correctly, versus something like the Kshatriya that has like 14 or 16 or some crazy high number, the Kshatriya is just going to do more damage. And there's a period at the end of that. Every X amount of seconds, all the funnels are going to shoot. And the problem is, obviously not all funnels are equal in that sense. It's literally just more funnels, more damage. Boosting funnel uptime on paper may fix the numbers. So something that has less funnels would be shooting longer and thus do equal or more damage than something that just has more funnels to begin with. But the problem is, instead of having a block of 5 seconds that you're doing damage, you now have a block of like 8-10 seconds that you're doing damage, where the other guy only needed the 5 seconds. So even though, yes, you used 1 EX skill each and you both did the same amount of damage, he was done in this amount of time, you were done in this amount of time. During that cooldown period, that extra time, his skill was going on cooldown and getting ready to be used again. You have to fix the core issue of funnels doing damage based on the skill and not the amount of funnels, which is kind of the issue. Anyways, melee funnels don't suffer from this. If you're using melee funnels like the Moon Backpack or the GN Fangs or stuff, keep going. Those don't suffer from this. They use a melee modifier. They just absolutely wreck house. That's why the Moon Gundam Backpack is just so good. But shot funnels, you want more. I don't think there's anything that has more than the Kshatriya right now. That may be Kshatriya bias. I might be mistaken. But more is better. Uptime does not fix the problem. It exacerbates it. Exacerbates? Yes, exacerbates it by just effectively increasing the problem. That's why I don't like the funnel uptime stuff. It solves the problem, but not actually at all. So while mid-range, boost funnel uptime by 60%. Mid-range, very easy to get. Boost funnel uptime if you're using melee funnels. Nice. If you're using shot funnels, you better have a lot of funnels. The first one, though, when attacking with beam, shooting power boost by 25%. If you pair that with, beam funnels, a lot of beam funnels, this will be a nice kind of part for that. Actually, this would be really good with, for example, the Kshatriya funnels, because, yeah, 25% boost because they're all beam shot. Or shot beam, whatever, and they get the funnel uptime. But yeah, the funnel talk. Why is it still not fixed? Anyways, yeah, moving on. Torso. Vertigo has an impressive funnel count. I think I counted 12, but I could be wrong. See, that's really good. That means that there's actually a good reason to run that head with the suit, all things considered. That's good. God, I love their fries. So good. All right, torso. Long shooter job. EX skill piercing boosted by 22%. Does exactly what's printed on the tin. Your EX skill, 22% more pierce. Problem is, again, pierce is represented by a letter value in this game. So you have a pierce level of A. What does that mean? Is that 20%, 60%, 120%? Who knows? The devs, no one else. Maybe the battle formula guess, I don't know. End of the day, 22%. It's an okay number, nothing crazy. But there's no real way to tell how useful that actually is in the grand scheme of things. However, should be noted, if you are running a bunch of EX skills that are all power, no pierce, you probably want to throw a couple of these piercing things in there, just get a little extra damage out of it. if, you know, you don't have a better EX skill power booster kind of thing, like a 90% boost or something. Anyways, second trait, cooldown time up 10%. Already talked about that. Enemy shooting damage plus 30%. Very interesting combo. So if you're using shooting EX skills, this kind of feeds into both of them here. You get your EX skill piercing and the shooting damage bonus. Cool stuff. Overall, I'm not a big fan of the first trait. The second trait, good. But again, the CDR kind of, it could be an easier activation trigger. Could be worse, honestly, like a 20% CDR thing. It's okay. Second trait, good. First trait, it's there. Arms. Bits. I wonder what these could be. Maybe they're bits. Yeah. Squad continuously recovers 3% of their armor. Huh. A+ pierce, B- power. Alright. So... bits and bobs. So here's the thing, right? The head having this 60% funnel uptime, interesting, feeds into this whole recovery of your armor. So not only would your bits do more damage because they're up for longer, but they also are healing your squad for a much longer period of time. So if you remember how I was mentioning, you know, you're kind of exacerbating the problem by just increasing how long your less funnels are out. This is one of those rare scenarios where if you don't have any other healing options, so you don't have an EX skill that heals, you don't have a cutscene that heals or whatever, this could honestly just be an active global healing thing for you because it heals your squad. It's a very niche kind of setup to have, but I've heard of crazier. So yeah, very interesting. If you remove the healing aspect from this, it's going to be effectively like every other beam shot funnel, where it's how many bits. If it is 12, like Mana said, that is a significant amount of funnels. It will definitely be doing a lot of damage. Workable. But if it's like to 8 or less, I really wouldn't even consider it. Even 10 or less, I don't think I would. Whether it's attached to the funnel or it's a buff effect that relies on time up. So the way that I'm reading this is while the bits are out, so while the skill is active, your squad is continuously healing 3% of their armor. So if you increase funnel uptime, that's indirectly increasing the duration of this EX skill, meaning you're increasing the total heal over time. So the number stays the same, 3%, but it lasts for extra seconds. I'm not quite sure the duration of this. Let's say it's 10 seconds and we're working with the 60%. You're looking at 16 seconds of 3% heals instead of 10 seconds of 3% heals. That's pretty much it, right? Again, a very niche kind of situation to be in. It's really cool, mind you. The heal over time is really neat. But it really does depend on how many funnels are actually used. And if you don't have access to a better EX skill, perhaps a better funnel, whatever. My guess is probably just a buff because man, it's some diligent enough. I'm not gonna lab it to find out. You can. God damn. All right. Let's check out the legs. While mid-range, mid-shot attack raise 14%. So, mid-shot attack is actually referring to the distance between you and whatever you're targeting. Mid-shot, mind you. Mid-range is a word tag. Mid-shot is distance. So, if you go back in my channel to one of the very first videos I posted about GBM, I did actually talk about the targeting reticle and distance to your enemy. So you have close range, mid-range, long range, and out of range. And weapons do different things. If you're using an SMG, for example, they do more damage when you're in that close range bracket. Beam rifles, they do more damage in the mid-range bracket. And things like the sniper rifles do more damage in the long range bracket. Who could have thought? So what this is saying is when you're in that mid-shot bracket, your neutral attacks are doing 14% more damage. So if you're using a beam rifle, you're getting a lot of extra kind of juice out of that on top of the 14% here. I don't think it's really worth it. Early on, absolutely, because you're going to be using a lot of neutral attacks. But once you start building up your EX skills, once you get a couple of magazine skills to play with, once you have a quick pocket skill to pop right away, you're going to find yourself using neutrals less and less and less and less, and this will phase out relatively quickly at that point. So I would be hesitant about really looking at that and going, oh yeah, I'm going to commit to neutral attacks. Works, but like there's better options. And after 15 seconds pass, enemy all power reduced by 45%. So if you manage to survive for 15 seconds, every enemy just has 45% less power. However, again, this only affects the suit this is equipped onto, and it only affects what they are targeting. So I'm suit B, I'm targeting enemy A, he hits me after 15 seconds, 45% reduction. I'm on, suit A, attacking enemy A, and he hits me back, it doesn't matter, I don't have the part equipped, he does normal damage to me. So just keep that in mind. It's kind of a niche thing. 45% all power though is really good if you want something to survive, because that's almost like just 50% gone right there, right? So if you have a support suit that you're using for buffs, or you're using it for heals, whatever, or stuns, may be a good idea for that, reduction. But again, it's got to survive for the first 15 seconds. Kind of a niche setup part. First trait, I think, is just kind of not worth it. And lastly, the Beam Saber for the Vertigo. With Technique Attribute, enemy melee power reduced by 25%. Alright, talked about that combination. And Long Shooter Job, squad funnel time plus 50%. Again, this is just exacerbating the problem. You're just increasing the total time your funnels are going to be up instead of actually fixing the damage in the time window period. But again, there may be very rare scenarios like the Vertigo Bits where it has an extra effect that you may actually want the extra uptime for, like a heal over time. So, food for thought, I guess. So, yeah. It's interesting. I don't really know if I'd rather just have a quick burst, like 90% heal or something from an EX skill. Yeah, the Vertigo does have a crazy amount of funnel uptime, 110% total between the 60 and the 50. It's just, funnels need to be in a better place, honestly. However, if you are using melee funnels, it may be a good idea. I would say regardless, get the Vertigo daggers maxed out for the squad funnel uptime. Primarily, you can put that on one of your support suits, and if your main suit has melee funnels or something, that's a lot of extra slappage for free, man. Melee funnels are where it's at. And lastly, our Blue Destiny. This is Unit 3. Alright. Exam System Marion. Reach speed by 20%, shot attack by 34%, and cleanse debuffs. Okay. Pretty straightforward. Get your speed boost, shot attack boost, clear. There's really nothing else to say. Literally just repeating myself here. Alright, shot attack boost is nice. I'm not really so sure about the debuffs. Those aren't terribly common, but I guess with the recent suits that come out, you might be seeing a lot more debuffs being flung around. Yeah, normally debuff cleanse doesn't matter, but because of what just dropped in the gacha, it may actually start seeing some more action with debuffs and stuff, Torso. Waist wire guided missiles, B+ power, D pierce. It exactly was printed on the tin. You fire a missile, low cooldown. On paper, it looks solid. In practice, I believe this literally just fires a light homing missile. Or maybe it's a dumb missile. Honestly, it doesn't matter. It's a missile. Again, the enemy AI probably won't dodge. They'll just walk into it. Because that's what AI does. Blue Destiny Unit 3, Arms. while Federation buff EX skill effect or skill time up 15%, and while Federation buff EX skill effect up 30%. So this is a very interesting combination for what this part is. You get a 15% time up, which it's not really that big of a deal. The 30% up buff skill effect, that's kind of interesting. You just need the Federation tag active, which increases melee and shot attack by 5% and shot defense, but whatever. So this is workable on either shot or melee, and you just get a nice, healthy set of bonuses for your buffs. Not the highest modifiers we've seen, but nice. Legs. With power attribute, shooting crit rate boosted. Out the window, goodbye, crit's garbage. They should fix that. Crit would be really cool. Imagine critting beam funnels that are fixed to do actual, like, proper damage. While operated on auto, EX skill cooldown reduced by 23%. As stated, on auto, cooldown reduction. The first trait is just straight waste. The second trait is useful under very specific conditions. Mainly, you can do the content on auto, or you have extra Gunpla with you that can be used on auto. The 23% cooldown reduction is one of the highest modifiers available, higher than the normal 20% due to this restriction. Yeah. Okay. I don't know if I would invest heavily into the suit just for that second trait, but it is there if you are doing auto a lot. If you are not, I can think of a dozen other legs that would do better than this. They wouldn't do cooldown reductions. You could find some that do. But yeah, no, that first, it's literally just a single trait, and you have to be playing auto. Backpack. Cougar Rush. Okay, the animation on Cougar Rush, if I remember correctly, is that's the one where you like kind of do the slide and spin, right? Or is it a different one? Anyways, it's one of the ones that has kind of a animation to it. So even though on paper it has A- power, D pierce, low cooldown, looks really good just text-wise, in practice, unfortunately, due to the animation, it's not horrifically bad. It's just not that great because you can be dodged, you can be avoided, you can whiff it. So kind of use at your own risk kind of deal. Yeah. Oh, it's just a bunch of saber swings? Even better. The one that has, like, the dash and the sweep is at least, like, you're probably gonna hit something. But the bunch of swings is just so meh. Alright. Beam rifle. Beam resistance is over 8,000 enemy EX skill damage plus 30%, while Federation initially EX skill. Okay, so that first trait is actually much more in line with what we would expect to see from an initial skill charge boost for this type of suit, 12%. While beam resist is over 8,000, now 8,000 is not a low number, it's not a high number. I'd say it's kind of like a mid-game-ish number, maybe a little past that. But you'll get that it's an inevitability, a lot like the melee attack and shot attack stuff. Enemy EX skill damage plus 30%. That is a significant bonus. The initial EX skill charge boost works really well with that because you got a lower initial cooldown, so you can use an EX skill quicker, and the trade-off is it gets a 30% extra damage boost to it. However, it's like these numbers aren't terrible on their own. But as far as beam rifles go, I believe there are better options. Standalone, this is not bad. For what this is good stuff. That's pretty much it. And the shield. When shot attack is over 5,000, inevitability, it's a rounding error at most, enemy strong melee power reduced by 25%. So when it says strong melee, what this is referring to is the last attack in a melee combo. So you'll do like your first swing, second swing, third swing, and you do like a big charge up and hit them with the final swing. That's your strong melee. Infighters and outfighters, when they dash at the enemy, can attack using their neutral and immediately do a strong melee attack. However, again, this falls under the same issue as shot, special shot, where it's just not that great. You're better off looking at boosting your straight neutral damage. You're much better off looking at boosting your melee power or EX damage versus strong melee power. This reducing it by 25%, whoop-de-doo. The chance of you getting hit by a strong melee attack is very slim to begin with, so. And while Federation, buff EX skill effect up 30%. So, unfortunately, with that first trait being what it is, that does kind of gimp a lot of the value that the shield has. The second trait is good, buff EX skill effect up 30%. Like, that's a big number. But with that first trait doing literally nothing, you're putting the shield on just for the buff EX skill effect up. Again, for what this is, that's a good number, that's a good buff. It just feels to me like kind of a waste of investment to put stuff into it just for that second trait. But again, you know, if that's what you want to do, it's what you want to do. It's not bad. And with that, that's all the alterations, that's the event suit, that's the gacha. We done. Thank God I want to finish my food and go to bed. It's almost 1:30. Anyways, as always, guys, thanks for tuning in, hanging out, all that fun stuff. I'll see about doing a video relatively soon. There's some stuff happening. Yeah, you got an FGO live stream happening soon. I'm going to be sparking in Grand Blue when their discount banner pops up, so I might stream that. I probably won't, though, just because streams, Grand Blue Spark streams are very, very short, unless like you're doing stuff on top of that. And right now, all I'm doing is farming Arcarum, and no one wants to watch that. Let's be real. That's literally just me doing the same thing for hours. Anyways, as I was saying, thanks for hanging out, tuning in, and I will see you guys in the next video I do. Might be a live stream, might be a posted video. Don't know yet. I'll cross that bridge when I get there. Peace out, and I'll see you guys in the next one.